everyone. First of all, wish you all a very happy, prosperous, and a healthy new year. This is Niladri Chaudhary, CEO of Excellentro and the Chief Organizer for the DevOps India Summit. Like every year, this year also, we are going to be having the DevOps India Summit 2022 on the August 26th from 8 a.m. IST to 8 p.m. IST. As part of this initiative, every year we come up with the predictions that the practitioners have. This year also will not be an exception. So this year we are going to see 10 different predictions from 10 practitioners and experts in the field of IT, DevOps, DevSecOps, SRE, security, etc. So we will have Lakshmi Nair from Synopsys, Vandana Verma, who is the director of OWASP, Naresh Chaudhary of Infosys, Prasanna Lohar, who is an expert in blockchain. He is from DCB Bank, Vishwajit Mahapatra from IBM. We have our own Mark Hornbeek, who is the founder of Engineering DevOps Consulting, Mirko Herring, who is the global Agile and DevOps practice head and managing director of Accenture Australia. We have Kiran Kamiti, who is the founder of DeFactor. We will have Vasant Vishnu Vasudevan from Apsara and Mandeep Singh Ovi, who is the founder of devsre.org. And along with them, I will also be sharing my predictions. Hope you will be able to get some idea what we are going to see in 2022. So let's hear what they have to say.
Hello, I am Biswajit Mahapatra, Partner and Executive Director at IBM. Here are my 2022 predictions for DevSecOps. As you all know, with pandemic, enterprises are accelerating their cognitive transformation journey. DevSecOps, as an evolving practice, is right there at the center of this transformation to deliver value, optimize cost, quality, and risk, improve brand effectiveness, and accelerate scale of innovation. DevSecOps is all set to enable business model innovation to complement virtual contactless world that we all are living in today. Enterprises are embracing DevSecOps for everything. DevSecOps for containerization, DevSecOps for cloud, DevSecOps for databases, DevSecOps for mobile with architectural point of control in action. Application modernization and cloud native continuous delivery is going to be enhanced in coming days, leveraging open source technologies that are in play today. Value stream management platform. Every industry is going to adopt value stream management platform to drive agility and business outcomes. Amalgamation of DevSecOps with next-gen exponential technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, blockchain, and edge computing will contribute to the acceleration of digital transformation journey for the enterprises. A new practice is at the horizon, which is called resilient engineering practices. To make organizations shift from robust to resilience, DevSecOps is going to be the DNA of this practice. So, DevSecOps 2022 movement is right here, right now. Happy DevSecOpsing all. Thank you.
everyone. My name is Kiran Kamiti. I'm the founder and CEO of DeepFactor. We are a Silicon Valley-based developer security company. Here are my top 3 predictions for 2022. Number 1, cloud native application development goes mainstream. So if you are creating software, which everybody is, and if you're not embracing cloud native development methodologies, then you may be falling behind. Number 2, developer security starts seeing growth. The ability to identify security and compliance risks during the course of dev, testing, and within the CI/CD pipeline has emerged as an extremely important part of your development process. This enables you to identify risks so that when you go to production, you don't get breached, or when you go to production, you don't get compliance penalties. So developer security is parallel to whatever tool your application security tool is using, becoming one of the important things in your development experience. Number 3, we're seeing forward-thinking organizations create developer experience teams within their companies. What do these teams do? The job for these teams is to make sure that developers within the company have proper tooling as well as processes in place. So they focus on release, build and release, CI/CD pipelines, deployments, as well as security being baked into the developer experience. And there are explicit teams that are being formed to make it happen. These are my 3 predictions for 2022. Happy New Year.
The only easy day was yesterday. For cybersecurity professionals like us, this is a very true statement where we fight cyber crimes every day. 2022 will not be any different. We will continue to do a lot of things from 2021 as well. I'm going to talk about 3 of my most favorite predictions for 2022 today. The first one, software bill of material. With the increase in the supply chain attacks like Log4j, you will see a lot of organizations are more concerned about components that are being used in the softwares that they are purchasing, the components that are being used in the softwares that they're developing, and the assurance that they provide to their customers about the secure software components that they have used when they are supplying software to their customers. The Gartner predicts that by 2024 or so, SBOM will become a mandatory requirement in many of the sectors. The second one, adapting defensive strategies and using open source intelligence to define your defensive strategy for managing vulnerabilities and moving from more of vulnerability management approach rather than just doing the penetration testing. The third one, this is my favorite, digital empathy. So we have heard about empathy in the in-person interaction. By applying empathy to digital solutions, we can make them more inclusive. In cybersecurity, that means building tools that can accommodate a diverse group of people's ever-changing circumstances. And it can also forgive a lot of mistakes that the users are making by implementing self-healing capacity. By that, we will be also providing more opportunity and time with cybersecurity professionals and to the developers and other technologists to focus on more pertinent problems than tool-related and problems in the future. With that, I wish all of you an easier 2022 and a better tomorrow. Happy New Year 2022.
Hi, my name is Mandeep. Let me share my bit of technology predictions for the year 2022. Let's start with remote working culture. I think what has happened in the last couple of years is that the world economy has become even more dependent on the internet infrastructure for obvious reasons of enabling work from home at a global scale. So I think the culture of remote work will continue for a while, and technology will continue to be the backbone of enabling that culture. In terms of product development lifecycle, I think DevOps will become more of a norm rather than a game changer as it was in the previous decade. And site reliability engineering will actually enable the distinction between a fast production deployment and a production deployment that is fast as well as reliable from a user experience perspective. And the reason I say this is because with the plenty of options that we have as customers, it is only the reliability and the user experience factor that can make us stick to one provider or vendor. In terms of tools, I think Kubernetes will become the operating system of the production environment, regardless of the fact if the application is cloud native or not. Another aspect that I see is about security. And whether we call it DevSecOps or cybersecurity or zero trust environment, security will actually become part of the product development lifecycle rather than as an afterthought once things are live in production. In terms of cloud, last year we saw some of the biggest outages in the cloud ecosystem. So we may see solutions coming in this year that will allow multi-cloud redundancy. And locking into a single cloud vendor may actually become a risk for business continuity. Now, in terms of machine learning and artificial intelligence, I think everyone will agree that they'll continue to grow exponentially, and they'll enable insights from customers, from applications, and from the entire ecosystem that we operate in, and they might lead us into newer ways of working and living. What we have in terms of Facebook Meta may just be the beginning. And lastly, I think it will be interesting to see how cryptocurrencies evolve in a highly governed and regulated financial sector and gain their way into commercial transactions. And I think that's it from me. Thank you for listening in.
Hi, I'm Mark Hornbeek. Some people call me the DevOps the Gray, and I've been asked by a few folks to give my predictions for DevOps and related things for 2020, since we just turned the year, and I thought that might be fun to do. So I put together this slide. These predictions that I'm talking about are really just based on my own experience, mostly with consulting and dealing with lots of clients and people doing DevOps and related things like continuous testing, site reliability engineering, DevSecOps, and so on. So it's not really based on any major study, although I'm aware of a number of major studies and probably influenced my thinking too. So in 2022, I do believe there's going to be a continuation of the adoption of the practices for continuous testing, DevOps, site reliability engineering, and DevSecOps. DevOps is all about continuous improvement, and especially related to the workflows for development, delivery, and production. So I don't see there's any major revelation that's going to encapsulate all of 2020, but there's a lot of things I see as happening, at least in my own world of the people I deal with. A lot has to do with, I'd say, optimizations. A lot of clients that I've seen have already implemented the first way of DevOps, continuous flow, or at least they've adopted continuous flow for quite a few of their applications, and now they're more into more advanced continuous improvements along the lines of instrumenting feedback in that flow. So the second way, improving continuous feedback, I think is going to be a continued focus and an enhanced focus in 2022, and that'll ultimately lead to the third way of DevOps, continuous improvement optimizations. Ultimately, as time goes on, maybe many organizations won't accomplish that this year, but ultimately that's where we're going, I believe. Along the same lines, you're seeing improvements in testing, sophistication, test environment optimizations. The SRE practices of setting SLOs and SLIs are certainly having an impact on improvements of continuous feedback, the nature of what we're measuring and what we're doing with those measurements. Toil reduction combined with automations in the DevOps world, I think, are leading us towards continuous improvements and more of an integration of automation practices between production and prior to production. So things like deployment automation is becoming a bigger and bigger thing, I believe, with some of the more sophisticated deployment practices. Anti-fragility in combination with DevSecOps, so anti-fragility, in particular the security aspects of anti-fragility, providing defensive security methods within production, combined with the more security prevention methods that DevSecOps provides, I think is leading us towards practices around what I'd call continuous security, and I've talked about that in other talks. Chaos engineering is emerging as more and more as a real thing for more and more organizations. So I think that'll be a continued focus in 2022 for some organizations, and an enhanced focus. And that also can be applied to security as well. If you look at people, process, and tech, DevOps has for a long time been about cultures and teams, team topologies, things like that. As the more and more people get on board with DevOps, there's a shortage of skills. So upskilling has become a bigger and bigger focus, trying to get more people, learning about DevOps and all the complexities of things. The DevOps engineer role has emerged, I think, on a more solid footing, as well as specialties of DevOps engineering, as again, these things get more sophisticated and require more of a disciplined engineering approach to implement a proper solution. I think that will ultimately lead to DevOps and SRE combined engineering specialties, as those practices ultimately merge closer together for further optimizations. In the process area, CI has always been the heart of DevOps processes. CD followed it quickly on its heels, and more recently continuous deployment, as people get more confident in their delivery practices. Then automating the final leg in the delivery and deployment becomes more feasible, and I see more organizations doing that. GitOps has raised its head as a way to integrate automation for infrastructure together with delivery processes. So this is becoming, more prevalent in the worlds I deal with. Value stream management is becoming more real as well, where you're talking about end-to-end optimizations and automation, not only for an individual pipeline, but even a portfolio of pipelines. And finally, in the technology space, there's too many things to say there, but traditional DevOps has kind of crossed the chasm in terms of having DevOps platforms, containers platforms. COVID has driven us to look more and more about remote DevOps platforms, making sure that people can work remotely, whether a DevOps engineer, DevOps team, application developer. I think that's going to continue as a focus this year. DevOps as a service is emerging more and more as a real thing, as people try to operate and provide DevOps capabilities for optimizations and efficiency purposes as a service. I think that's ultimately going to lead to more DevOps combined with SRE as a service eventually. AI and ML continues to have lots of promise. Most of the applications I've seen so far have been in the service management space, but more recently, a lot of focus around observability applications as well, and some emergence of applications in the test automation space, although I think that's still needs to turn a corner to be really practical, at least in a dominant way for accelerating testing, but that's an exciting possibility. So that's it. Those are my predictions for 2022. I hope you have a great 2022, and I hope that your DevOps journeys are successful, and hopefully this gives you some insights, at least from my own point of view, what might happen and where you might focus if you're interested about that. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is Smoker Herring, the author of DevOps for the Modern Enterprise. It's the beginning of 2022, and I wanted to quickly share with you what I'm thinking 2022 will bring in regards to DevOps. So looking back obviously with the Corona crisis, everyone has been investing a lot in digital transformation and cloud, and I do think that that's continued to drive what we will see this year. I think DevSecOps will continue to be a very important thing. The tool chains and continuous delivery pipelines are all now including software component analysis, threat analysis. So I think there will continue to be an investment in that space. I also think that this year we will see a lot more approaches to how we deal with DevOps in the IoT space. So I've been working with some of that over the last couple of years with big manufacturing companies and looking into how they can use DevOps for updating their machines, their factories. And I think we will start seeing this pushing into the IoT space a lot more as we see, farms of drones, if we see much more sensors out there, and how can we support all the goodness that we do in software delivery, now also for the delivery of firmware and updates of IoT devices. So I think that's another really important thread. And then last but not least, I do think we will see, as we are now getting into this hybrid world of working from home and working in the office, a renewed energy on the DevOps culture. Yeah, so it was all easy when we said we just put people into the room and they share the 2 pizzas. Now we're going to start figuring out how do we do this when we all have our own little pizza at home instead of being able to share a big pizza on a big table. So I think the kind of hybrid work culture is going to be another thing that we will work on this year to figure out what can be done and people sharing how they best do that. So 3 things: continuous investment in DevSecOps, looking more into IoT and embedded devices, and what does the hybrid culture mean for us. So those are the 3 things that I would bet 2022 we will make progress in. Well, hopefully see you on the road. If not on the road, then see you perhaps in some of the virtual events. Thank you very much.
Hello friends, greetings. I want to wish you and all your near ones a very happy, healthy and prosperous New Year 2022. As you can see, we are in the midst of massive change. A lot of this is underpinned with a combinatorial effect of accelerated computing. These technology trends are going to not just disrupt us, but also our stakeholders, customers, partners and everyone else. I want to talk about a few of these that are critical for us. There are many trends around us. Clearly there is stuff happening around zero trust security. AI is coming in a very pervasive manner. We are looking at cloud and edge computing playing a role. Low code, no code platforms, service meshes, hyper automation. The way we look at process automation is going to change in the coming years. I want to pick out few of these that are closer to my heart and things that we are actually looking at from an Infosys standpoint and from my team standpoint. First and foremost, the platform teams are going to play an important role and in enterprises that are going to invest in these. These teams are going to create platform patterns, platform components, which actually can help other teams to accelerate their development. We are already seeing the benefit of doing this at Infosys. The second aspect is about looking at core engineering. At Infosys, we are looking at it in the form of engineering excellence, looking at it in the terms of different levers that can come together to drive massive changes in the team's performance. This could come in through a combination of tools, methodologies, platforms, automation assets, reusability, and engineering practices. All of these are going to play a massive role as they come together and impact the metrics for customers and partners. The third aspect is looking at DevSecOps. DevSecOps is going to be disrupted with platforms coming into picture. These are enterprise level platforms that will massively scale, bring in an element of de-skilling, and will bring in an element of acceleration where you can actually adopt DevSecOps across hundreds of applications in a short period of time. We will also be seeing an element of speed and automation coming into this with respect to the packaged apps, the Oracle, the SAPs and things like that, and the SaaS platforms, where DevSecOps is going to play an important role as we actually look at the implementation aspects of these. Site reliability engineering. From being dependent on people, we are going to see a shift happening where platforms are going to come in and play a role. At Infosys, we have already got the MVP in the SRE platform, which is going to again massively scale this, where you actually shift from depending on individuals for driving this to having platforms play an important role and drive a certain level of automation maturity with site reliability engineering. Next, we are actually looking at live engineering. This is our way of looking at the entire value chain across the software development lifecycle, driving insights, decision making for different personas in the value chain using data and insights. This is going to be massive because the amount of visibility it generates for different levels in the leadership as well as the operational aspects is going to be very significant in making sure that there is an element of acceleration that comes into the software value chain. And all of this comes together for us as part of our live enterprise ecosystem, where developers, architects, and all the other practitioners can come together, look at data insights in a very visible and transparent manner, and drive massive change. These are things that I believe in the coming quarters are going to play a significant role. Thanks for listening, guys.
Hello, everyone. Let me share what I think 2022 will be for the ICT industry. While we hear many of the organizations, including organizations like Gartner, Forrester, talks about a lot of technology, a lot of the new products, and so on, I will be talking or focusing a little bit more on the other side. Most organizations work with service providers. So we also need to think from the service provider point of view, along with the others. So while I agree with whatever a lot of the other people have talked about in terms of their predictions, I will be talking about a few predictions which is different from what they have said and what I feel are going to be there this year. So first of all, I think most of the organizations will be focusing on value creation and not just delivery of deliverables, which means that organizations is going to look at outcomes. So how the engagements will happen with the service providers, there will be a deliverable which is outcome, not just the deliverables. So the contracts will change to bring in the outcome so that the service providers becomes partners, not just vendors, and they contribute towards the growth of the business. They contribute towards the outcome that the business is trying to gain. That is going to be one major change, which will lead to a lot of other things, like everybody is going to look at value creation. So value stream management will be a very important aspect. And organizations, which is service providers, have to be part of that entire value stream as one single team, and they need to gear up to that. So value stream management will be an important aspect. We all know that everybody is moving into the newer technologies like cloud, multi-cloud, AI, ML, all these. Most probably there will be AR, VR, and everything. So AI, ML is not going to be another separate item. AI, ML will be another layer in the existing system itself. So we will not see it as something separate, but as part of the current stack of work that is going to be done. So that will be there. So now we are looking at smart and intelligent way of delivering based on the data that we already have. The next is organizations are going to look at skill building. A lot of new skills are going to be required. So what we currently have is not good enough. We need to upskill. So organizations will be focusing on skills. So certificates, degrees may not be that important. Technical skills and various other software skills which is required to make the person motivated and be part of that value creation, those are what is going to be more focused on. We will continue to see the hybrid model of working. So while the pandemic has focused much more on people working only from home, but now it will be like a mix of from home and coming to office and working. So there'll be a balance which will be brought in. And there will be a lot of change that we will see in the way that is being handled, how it is, what is expected of the people, and definitely a amount of better work-life balance is what I see, which is going to happen. And if we are looking at value creation, obviously that helps. We will also see more collaborative, experiment-based or hypothesis-based development coming up. So customers and the service providers will work together to find the solution first to the problem that they have and then implement it, rather than going for big bang transformation kind of initiatives. So we will see more evolutionary transformation, not big bang transformation. So every small problem that comes up or every small requirement that comes up, that is going to be taken care of. And it will be, the solution will be created together with the customer and service provider. So that is going to come up more and more. And the last thing is, organizations are going to focus on how they are going to be able to make our planet better. So sustainability will be an important factor in everything that the IT industry does, even in terms of coding, in terms of how we are architecting our system, everything. And obviously the newer technologies are going to help in that. And finally, the last point, which is security. That is going to be the primary concern still for all the CXOs. And it is not going to be only with the security experts. It is going to be like DevSecOps says, that it is everybody's responsibility. And that's again another area where a lot of training, a lot of upskilling is going to take place, because people now realizes that with the use of AI, ML, AR, VR, IoT, whatever technology we are using, cloud, security is becoming more and more important, because the systems are becoming more and more vulnerable. So we have to take care of that. So security is going to be one of the most important area to focus on. That is what I have to say as my predictions for the 2022. And I expect that everybody, including the service providers and customers and product vendors, keep in cognizance of these predictions and move forward. Thank you, everyone.
Hi friends, let's talk about 2022 and predictions gonna helpful for society, corporates, governments, countries out there with the help of good technology, different business models. I think if I categorize my predictions into 3-4 areas, I think on a nation side or a government side, there will be a lot of emphasis on collaboration among regulators, like in India, Central Bank, RBI, IFCA, they will collaborate with each other for very good products. CBDC could be one of those outcomes this year with RBI. At a national level, I can see in India, METI will come up with some good platforms on AI and blockchain. I could see that. We are sitting on very good railroads like UPI, Aadhaar, upcoming account aggregator, DigiLocker. I think many more platform consolidations will happen in India with the help of these many platforms. Secondly, on a corporate side, I could see, based upon the experience in pandemic, a lot of corporates will have a hybrid structure, right? A hybrid workforce. Somebody working from home, somebody working from offices. I think there will rise of a lot of collaboration tool which will help corporates to govern their work in a better direction. I think considering security is very, very important. So it will not be responsibility of only IT security department, but I think corporates will collaborate with the tech service providers and will really help us to have a better security at enterprises, at a country level, and so on. Reskilling is very, very important. So I think we'll not emphasize more on degrees rather than how employees are getting themselves learning new skills like blockchain, AI, or anything which is coming new, right? So I think organization will have a successful agenda if they really take care of their employees. This year we have seen a lot of a churn of employees in many companies, but I think reskilling, how to really keep the momentum of a business's operations with a better skilled resources, very, very gonna be important. A third thing on emerging technologies, right? So I think there will be rise of a blockchain. I think gone over the day we used to ask what is my blockchain, but I think we'll see a lot of enterprise use cases with them for blockchain. You will see AI ML platforms getting inculcated into development environments. You don't have to really talk about another AI ML platform coming into your businesses, but I think development community product owners, what they're gonna do that they will add on this layer, because this is gonna be layer just like we have a database based applications. Tomorrow you have to have an understanding of data with a better AI and a machine learning algorithm. So it has to be part of every platform which I could see emerging technology adoption. So I think RPA, intelligent automation, chatbots is gonna be a momentum for every organization who were they're serving with the customers on mobility. With 5G adoption or wearables, IoT, we'll see in India, outside of India also, quite a lot of different business model. What we have seen on Web 2.0 or mobility, social media, or this kind of architecture, with the 5G, demand of the customer will be huge and different. So I think that's a traction we'll see in 2022. If you talk about fintech startup, that kind of industry, the kind of we have seen 40 plus unicorns in the last 1 year, right? And maybe I'll not be surprised. India will have around 150 plus unicorns in 20. Already there are 3 being announced in the last 10-15 days in 2022. I think investment will play a lot of role for every fintech to come up with a different business model like BNPL or something for SME banks and so on. I think 2022 with will be for Web 3.0, rise of Web 3.0 with metaverse, NFTs. We talk about DeFi. Is a combination going to be helpful? Why? Because millennials will drive that business model. If you see Polygon kind of a company, almost 65% projects are on NFT. That's a way of a new web, right? Which is a Web 3.0. I think we should be ready for that. We'll see a lot of startups, fintech tech companies will do a lot of work on ethical cryptos and so on. Finally, I think if you see customer, right? When you talk about customer experience will change. They will demand more to those tech fintech companies. A lot of competition will come up, so it's very, very important for companies or anybody who are providing customer service. They have to see out of box and look at different form factors. Apart from your mobility, it will be, but we'll see something like metaverse, which is like augmented reality or virtual reality. Can you imagine, right? Facebook has rebranded themselves as a Meta, right? So same way is with Apple, Google, within India, Jio also. So I think customer experience was changed heavily during pandemic. That momentum will continue more, and with 5G, wearables, and metaverse, that combination will take real life thing into virtual life, right? So I'll not be surprised we will do those meetings into AR VR environment the way we did it on a web conference in Zoom or many other tools. I think that's a wave. So customer is changing, technology is coming and helping to change. Corporates are changing. The corporates who will do a lot of research, risk around emerging technologies, and we'll have an eye on what government is talking about on a new technology, like India last year announced Atmanirbhar, or there are other technologies which will help the world to sustain, right, around 17 sustainable goals. So I think on a nation side, huge work is happening already. Every nation is come up with their own national strategy on emerging technologies. Corporate has to work, collaborate with the startups, tech companies, and keep on hearing customers what they want. If they want to collaborate with the startup fintech, they should have their own acceleration program. So I think 2022 will be an year where last year we have seen India on 46 as an innovation index, right? Maybe this year when global innovation index will be announced, we should be under 40. That's my prediction for 2022. Thank you so much. Yeah.
everyone. I'm Adara Verma, and today I'll be sharing my perspective around predictions in cybersecurity for 2022. We've been seeing a lot of change in cybersecurity industry and in the whole landscape, where cybersecurity is becoming very important for the organizations. We've seen a lot of incidents which are happening in the past, especially if I talk about when 2020 was about to end, we saw supply chain attacks. So the first thing would be we need to concentrate on these supply chain attacks, and we need to start using SBOMs, which is software bill of materials, and understand what we have in our environment. And especially being from a software security industry, I would say, or I would highly recommend to use SBOMs and understand what is our appetite, what do we really need, and attacks are imminent. They're going to happen. They're going to be there. But what more we can do to be more proactive? That's going to be the first thing. Then we talk about cloud. Cloud security is another big thing, which needs attention very much. We've been knowing about configuration issues for a very long time, but still these issues are creeping up. Those small holes are creating big issue for the organizations. Now, while we talk about cloud security, there's another thing which caters to, again, DevOps, DevSecOps, and rigorous testing. That's called chaos engineering. That is very much needed when we talk about the whole maturity of an organization, maturity of a software security of an organization. At the same time, while we are taking care of chaos engineering, cyber threat intel plays a very, very big role in the whole cybersecurity landscape. We started creating SOC models, which is a security operations center to manage our SOC or the incidents. But then there is new threats which are coming up every day, every minute, every second. And we need the intel about them. We need to manage our own ecosystem to understand what do we have in our environment. We might see that there is an attacker who've been in the system for 4 months, for 6 months, for 1 year. We have cases, right? We have breaches. We've heard about those breaches wherein the attacker has been there for like 2 years. Now, while we talk about that, we need to start adopting artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms, because we see a lot of rise in the ransomwares. So it is very much important to understand how the behavior changes, how fast the behavior changes, and especially from a cognitive perspective, it is needed. And we need to educate our workforce at the same time. But we can't totally rely on the workforce, because sometimes we need these cognitive efforts to bring up the different technologies, and they tie up really, really well. And that also leads to a point where people have started to talk about zero trust. So it ties very, very beautifully with zero trust, where you don't need to trust anyone. And at the same time, you're verifying everyone. And the most important aspect, but not the last one, is understanding the third party vendors. Now, why do I say that? The recent incident with Log4j or Log4Shell, where it is a logging platform which is seen to be vulnerable. Now, when that happens, that brings us to a point wherein we need to understand, we need to keep a track of all things that we have, because everyone was going crazy when this happened. Everyone was just talking about Log4j. Let's get me some data. Let's get me details. And every now and then there is new bug that is coming up, right? So when around it is coming, it is important to understand how it is impacting us. And another thing is that these privacy regulations are becoming a big concern. So understand where data is flowing, what data is flowing. The last point from my side would be to understand more about open source security. If I'm using open source security, how much do I know about it? I'll tell you a very, very recent case which happened on in January itself, while I was talking about Caller and Faker. These two libraries, maintainers pulled the plug. Why? Because they couldn't maintain it. They needed revenue. So that's fine. They need support from the organization. They need support from the community. No two people or no one person can go ahead and maintain everything for a very long time. So they need some efforts. They need some revenues. Now, it brings us to a point that how organizations can tackle it. It is very, very important to understand that. So be very cautious about it. Thank you.
Hello everyone, Happy New Year 2022. And this is Vishnu Vasudevan, Head of Product at Opsera. So I'm going to talk about 2022 predictions. Thank you Neeladri for this opportunity. So coming to 2022, we know like what we went through in 2021 in terms of personal as well as on the business side of it. And let me talk about the business side of it. Like everything was smooth and people are rushing the software into production due to the digital transformation because of the pandemic. But in the air end, like there's a huge shock that came in as Log4j attack that basically opened the eyes pretty much across the industry, where people have to scramble and sacrifice their leaves and vacations and work on the Log4j. So the 2022, it's going to be, the prediction is going to be like in few areas I'm expecting where it's going to grow exponentially. In terms of cloud adoption, people are going to move towards more public cloud and moving from legacy to microservices based architecture. That's one thing. And second thing is, when it comes to the cloud migration, the security aspect is going to be really key because of the number of vulnerabilities coming into the market. Because if you look at it, since the pandemic started, like there has been like huge vulnerabilities coming into the open source community, and like around 18,000 vulnerabilities have come so far. I'm not sure really about the numbers. So the focus is going to be more on the security and quality aspect of it. And the next thing is, if you want to move any code into production, like be it a software development lifecycle or infrastructure as a code, or like SaaS based applications like Salesforce, Snowflake, Informatica, or like any COTS based application, right? You will have to have one common layer which can take care of all your security and quality aspect of it, which is going to be DevOps. So the DevOps adoption is going to be 3x, 4x of what we have seen in last 18 months. And it's going to grow exponentially, just like the cloud adoption that's going to happen in the market in next 2 to 3 years. Thank you everyone for the opportunity. Looking forward to meet you all in some other trade shows or events and talk about like more on the security aspect of it and the DevOps aspect of it, and learn from you all on how the market is trending towards too. Thank you so much. And again, like have a great year ahead. Talk to you soon. Thank you.